a foreigner in their home. We decided to go to Budapest and located my uncle. I don't believe I will ever forget the look on his face when he first saw me. He knew immediately that there was something wrong and that something very bad must have happened. He said he would help me as long as I wanted to and that I could stay with him as long as I wanted to. Well, after staying with him for a short time, maybe a few weeks or so, he received a call from one of his neighbors and was told that someone reported him to the police that he was hiding a foreigner in his home. Immediately, he had to make other arrangements for me, and he got in touch with a distant relative who lived in the outskirts of that city, and he agreed that I move in with him. Well, after staying with him for a short time, maybe a week or so, I was coming home one evening from the city, and I saw him waiting for me at the streetcar stop where I usually got off. He seemed extremely nervous and upset and told me that I could not come to his home. The police were there and they know that he was hiding someone in his place. I immediately got on the first streetcar back to the city. I didn't even have time to ask him for a little money so I should be able to buy some food. I got on that streetcar and I had absolutely no idea where to go and what I was going to do. I knew that I could not get in touch with my uncle there for fear that he would get in trouble. On the way to the city, I noticed a park and decided to get off and spend the night in that park. The next morning, I went into the city and started to look for some type of work. I stopped mostly at restaurants, offered to clean the place, wash dishes, and I told them that they would not have to pay me. All I really wanted was some food for the work I'd be doing. No one would hire me, but there were some that did help me once in a while. The next 5 to 6 months, I lived outdoors on the streets of Budapest. Most of the time, sleeping behind a factory that was closed at night, and I felt fairly safe. During the day, I had a difficult job of trying to find some food. And believe me, it was not easy. There were days when I succeeded, which wasn't very often. On the days when I could not get any food anywhere, I usually checked garbage cans behind restaurants, hoping to find some food in those garbage cans. You know, I look at you here, and I think all of you here are even a little older than I was when all this began for me. But can you just imagine what it is like to be only 13 years old and not having a home to go to, not knowing where you will sleep each night, not knowing where you will get your food each day, not being able to speak the language of the country that you're in, and being in constant fear. Well, after living like that for a while, that is, if this can really be called living, I felt that I could no longer go on like that. And I decided to go to the police and tell them the truth, and whatever happens, happens. I thought, what could they possibly do to a 13-year-old kid whose only crime was he was born Jewish? How wrong I was to think that way. I did go to the police, told them everything about myself, why I was there, why I had to leave my country. And I also told them that I had grandparents living there in a small town, but I did not get in touch with them for fear that they would get in trouble. And would it be possible for me to go and stay with them? I don't believe I finished that last sentence when I was slapped in my face by one of those officers and told, there's only one place you're going to, and that is straight to prison. I was put into a prison without even having a hearing, where I spent the next 2 years. While in that prison, I worked indoors, cleaning the place, scrubbing floors, and whatever was asked of me. After about 2 years in that prison, I was told that they will release me in custody of my grandparents. But while I am with them, I will have to report to the local police department twice every week, every Tuesday and Friday. The first time I went to report to that local police department, I was beaten, called all kinds of names. Most frequently, you stinking Jew, we don't need more of your kind in our country. I was also told that if I say anything to anyone about the way they were treating me, I would immediately be sent back to prison. Now this went on almost every time I had to report to that local police department. Well, after staying with my grandparents for a few months or so, the Germans entered Hungary. And whatever happened to the Jewish people just a couple of years before in Czechoslovakia was now happening in Hungary. All of us were picked up, taken to a nearby city where people from different communities were also brought in. After a few days, we were all put on a train into cattle cars and sent to Auschwitz. Now, Auschwitz was one of the concentration camps. I find it extremely difficult to properly describe to you the terrible conditions while we were on that trip. The trip did take about maybe 2.5 to 3 days. We had about 60 to 65 people in each cattle car. While on that trip, we received no food nor water. We had no bathroom and toilet facilities on that train. We had people on that train who absolutely never stopped crying. Others who were praying all the time. We had children, little children, babies, who were screaming and crying constantly. And yes, we even had some people on that train who were completely silent throughout that whole trip. And I suppose they must have been in a state of shock and wondering what was awaiting them once they reached the camp. Well, when we arrived in Auschwitz, actually the name of the camp that we arrived at was called Birkenau, which was adjacent to Auschwitz. There were soldiers with machine guns and dogs all over the place, making certain that no one escapes. At the gate of the camp, there were officers who were separating our people as we were entering that camp. Some of our people were sent to the left and some to the right. The people that were sent to the left, and I was in that group, were later sent to work for the Germans. The people that were sent to the right, who were mostly elderly people, women with young children, were all given were all given a towel and a bar of soap, and they were told that they would shower and clean up. When they got to the place where they were to shower, doors were locked on them and gas instead of water came out of those showers. Now this went on every day as thousands and thousands of people kept arriving every single day. I was given a number which was tattooed on my left forearm, and I was told that I will no longer need to remember my name. I will always be called by number.